I got money on my mind. I'm just trying to get some dough. I ain't picking up my line unless it's money on the phone.
But like you were saying earlier, wealth is intentional. If you want to actually build something and leave something for the next generation, you need to start moving like that and think about it that way versus sitting here like, oh, because I learned about this concept recently. It's called mental accounting. That's why people, that's the idea that whenever they get this money back, that it was a gift because they didn't go and exchange their time for that money. They feel like it was a return. That those same people, they're not aware that this money was already, like you just said, you just overpaid the government based on your tax bracket. You gave them too much money. So you gave them an interest-free loan, but they perception of the money is that it's not hard-earned money. So I don't have to think about how I'm going to pay my bills with this or how I'm going to use this to level up versus, oh, this is basically bullshitting money. Like people with the lottery, same thing. Like, oh, I won all this money. They don't look at it the same way because they're like, I didn't do nothing for this.
Right. No, that I know that concept. I didn't know it was called mental accounting. That's really good. I just want us to be more balanced. Like if you get a $2,500 refund and you want to treat yourself to a portion of it, fine, but also be intentional and say, what portion of this can I invest? What portion of this can I use to get the will that I know I should have gotten a long time ago? That's all. Go ahead and do something nice for yourself, but also be intentional about the other aspects of your life.
And I gotta say this because we speaking on investing. I always want people to think with this first too. Like that statistics, 78% of people live in paycheck to paycheck. A bunch of people don't have an emergency fund. You get that refund, that should be your first priority in my head. Like if you don't have at least $1,000, $2,000 saved up, put a little something in there. Like you said, still treat yourself. But like maybe you want to look at paying down some debt, or maybe you want to look at saving up some of that money because like we can't enjoy the fruits of our investments if we sitting here and like we got all this debt whenever we die. Now we gotta, like you were talking about earlier, just passing this shit down versus like you taking care of your priorities whenever you were here.
No, that's a good point. I love that 78%. Well, I don't love it, but I love that you shared it because I think people understood that intellectually. But when COVID hit, we really got to see. You paycheck to paycheck. Oh, I thought that was just an expression. You don't have next month's rent, for real. People got to see that over the past almost year now. Can you believe it?
That is the craziest part. That it's almost been a year that we've been dealing with this.
Yeah, I remember March came. I was like, I'm sorry, you don't want me to come to work? Oh, okay.
I was hurt then. I was that we hopped into full-time entrepreneurship right before the pandemic. I was a teacher. The pandemic did as well. You know, our business took off. It was crazy. We had the best year ever. But like I was hurt because I was a school teacher prior to this. And like when the pandemic hit, they was getting paid to do nothing. And I was like, damn, if I'd have held out for like a month, I could have got paid.
That is true. You could have been paid and then here doing your podcast. It's okay. Listen, I don't know what people's spiritual or religious beliefs are, but I believe in God, and I believe that God will order your steps.
Always.
He will bless your actions. He will bless your intentions. And so even though it looks like, I could have, you don't even know what's waiting for you around the corner.
Amen.
You don't even know.
Amen.
It's going to be something like, oh, shoot, I'm rich. How did that happen?
By being obedient.
That's the biggest word right there, obedience.
Yeah, that's a tricky for some of us.
I mean, we ain't even going to get into it. But I'm kind of glad that we got into the business tip and stuff. Now that we kind of went a little bit deeper into the estate planning, I kind of want to talk about what has entrepreneurship been like for you? And like, when did you transfer from the corporate life, you know, being in the financial to actually moving into your own firm?
In my mind, I started it in 2019, but my feet didn't move until 2020 because then I had the bandwidth. My corporate job is very intense. It's very intense. So the idea of also doing something on the side just didn't occur to me. But when I found myself physically in the home where I could do a lot more and not have to run around the city, that's when it felt like, okay, let me actually see how good I can get at this now that I don't have an excuse. That was COVID, or not COVID itself, the pandemic itself, but the restrictions that it placed on some of us. allowed us to reprioritize,
Mm-hmm.
allowed us to realize, okay, that was just a story I was telling myself. If I'm really honest with myself, I was just scared to death to do it.
Mm.
So I opened the firm 2 years prior, but I hadn't done anything with it because at that time I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel good enough, right? Because I'm used to being in a space with other attorneys. So I can go down the hall and be like, oh, Jalen, I want to bounce this idea off of you. When you are a solopreneur, there is no Jalen. I'm like, what if I don't know the answer? Who am I going to call? That type of thing. So I would say, even though I started it in 2018 or 2019, I didn't actually start to move and have the belief in myself that I could do it until basically last year.
And
that's powerful that you share that, because it's like you have 13 years of experience in this field.
I know.
And even with you stepping into entrepreneurship, like you have the corporate background and all that, you still get hit with imposter syndrome, basically.
Yeah.
Like that feeling, I feel like with entrepreneurship, we don't talk about it enough.
Right.
Because it's almost like you, no matter how hard you go, so no matter how well you do, it's always like this little voice in the back of your head that's like, am I doing this right?
Am I doing this right?
Am I good enough?
Am I exactly? And then and depending upon what level of perfectionism you ascribe to, you're thinking it has to be like this. And if it doesn't look like this, then it's crap, right? So you keep holding yourself to this ridiculous standard and comparing yourself and psyching yourself out of the gifts that God has already given you.
Talk about it.
That's powerful.
It's like I just had to kind of like leap and be like, all right, there's gonna be something to catch me when I fall down there. That's how I started. And remember when I spoke about having the right people around you? I had the right people around me. Lil, stop playing.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Like you're talking about, you couldn't go walk down the hallway, but you still had access to that network.
I did.
They probably wasn't down the hallway, but you could pick up the phone and call them.
And I didn't know that I had to imagine something differently for myself. So you know how like my mom was scared to death because she didn't think people would hire a Black woman? That was because that's what she saw. I was scared for myself because I had never been trained to think like an entrepreneur. So I had to get over that self-limiting belief as well. Once I realized, oh, these people are just kind of winging it too. I can wing it.
Hey, that's the essence of entrepreneurship. Figure it out.
That's the truth. I'm pretty sure Jeff Bezos probably like,
he's like,
I wonder when they gonna figure out. I don't know what the hell going on.
He's like, this turned out better than I thought. Okay, I was just selling books in the beginning. So yeah, I mean, that's not to say you shouldn't be tight and know your stuff. It's just to say remove that spirit of insecurity or have a way to manage it. You're never going to remove it. Have a way to manage that energy or that spirit of insecurity, because that will hold you back from your greatness if you keep thinking I'm not good enough. Yeah.
So can I ask you a question? What was the most difficult thing once you really got started in 2020? What was one of the things where you're like, oh, I'm in here. I didn't jump off the deep end?
For me, because I was doing both jobs, it was juggling both jobs. Like I said, the corporate job was demanding. It wasn't like I was building a firm and then also working at like something really easy.
Yeah.
They were both really difficult. So feeling of dropping the ball, if you drop the ball once in a while and you know it's okay. I had this constant feeling that I was dropping all the balls. All the balls were on the floor. And I was just trying to gather it up and hope nobody noticed. I had that feeling all the time. That's when I knew, I'm really in here because I'm responsible for people's estate plan. Parents are calling me. People are telling me their stories. I got to go to court virtually. That's when I felt like, and the very pointed thing was a client reached out to me to be guardian of his mother who was dealing with Alzheimer's. So she can't do anything for herself. And I went to court and I advocated on his behalf and I got him the guardianship. And the way he was so appreciative, I was just like, oh, I did good today. That's how I felt. I was like, I did good today. Yay. That's when I was like, oh, I'm in here. You can't tell me nothing now because I'm doing God's work.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
So with entrepreneurship, I know you mentioned your team a little bit earlier. How has that process been? Because we love to talk about building teams on
and
this
expanding.
podcast.
Yeah, that was tough. I learned the hard way. That's when I realized, you can't do all of this by yourself. Because even when you see a successful business, it's not one person. You're gonna have to cap out. I was seeing something recently about like, if you're trying to make $200, $300, $500,000 a year, you can't do that on your own unless you just have like a like what is those things when people just kind of like sell
Drop shipping.
Yes, exactly. Like, okay, there's this warehouse somewhere that has a whole bunch of t-shirts, and when someone
And you
orders
just
the
running
t-shirt,
ads
and I just send it out when you order. Outside of that, you're not going to get to the next echelon if everything has to flow through you. That's like having a dam trying to flow through a straw.
Especially a service-based business.
Especially service-based. So I had to look at my business and say, what's the thing that I need the most help with? I need someone who has some legal acumen, but they don't necessarily have to be an attorney. So that's when I hired a paralegal. So I'm like, you can draft the document, like generally speaking, and then I'm going in to make sure all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted. These clients want to talk to you all the time, which is fantastic, but I can't talk to them all the time. I need someone else to answer the phones. That's when the intern came in. Then I needed someone else to respond to emails and set up calendar invitations and call people back and mail the documents to their house after I created it. That's when the admin came in. So it's me going through the process and recognizing where I'm not strong. It's okay to say, you know what, I suck at ABC. I'm going to find a who. Right?
There we go.
I'm gonna find a who. Instead of me trying to figure out, I need to take another class to learn data processing with Excel sheets. Find someone who knows how to do it.
They already took the class.
Cut the learning curve and the process down a lot.
Exactly, because the truth is, I don't want to learn it. I just want the benefits of it. So let me get someone who already learned it so I can get the benefits of it. So it was trial and error in realizing I need someone to take care of this. I need someone to take care of that. I trust you. You have to know how to delegate, because I hired these people and I still wasn't giving them the work because I was used to doing it myself. So one day I was just like, you have an admin. Why have you not called her to tell her to do this stuff? She's probably waiting for you, wondering why you're not using her yet. I was still in the Lone Ranger mentality. So you can hire these people, but you have to practice delegating. You have to practice training them, and you have to practice correcting them. If you're not training your team and you're looking at them while they're looking at you, and I just hired a bunch of people for no reason.
Talk about it.
I have to be able to train you on how I want things to be done and be as specific and anal as you want to be. It's your business. But you have to train them. And then when you train them, you have to let them go, which means they will make mistakes. And that is okay.
Because you're going to make mistakes too.
Because I'm not hiring robots. I'm hiring other human beings who will make mistakes.
And you have to let them know that it is okay to make mistakes too. Because sometimes, people, they're like, oh man, I don't want to. It's okay to make mistakes. Like, it's a part of growing.
Right.
And I definitely agree with you on with that. Like, just let them go. Let them
go. Yeah. Someone on my team made a mistake and it cost $1,200. I was like, But I was like, it's okay. It's $1,200. We'll get it back. I'll get it out of your paycheck if it don't come back.
Hey, that's one of the. That's how you.
This comes back.
That's how that correction. That's how you correct.
That's how you correct. You won't be making that mistake again.
Yeah,
but
you're gonna think about it.
You have to let them do their thing. And I like collaboration, so it's nothing for me to go to my team and say, "I'm thinking we should add this new thing to our practice. What do y'all think?" And go back and forth. That's just my style. So figure out what your style is, your team style. You're creating a tribe. Visualization might be a strong word, but I replay in my mind the life that I want to have. And a tribe is part of that. So it's, to me, not surprising that I have 3 team members. Like, I visualize, I think about, daydream about, whatever you want to call it, how my life is going to look and feel.
I love it. Yeah. Hey, this has been a whole sermon with the whole entrepreneurship. I promise you, because it's like, that's the hardest part for anybody, especially. And I love that we catching you right now.
Yeah,
you're taking this leap right into entrepreneurship. Because I know 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, it's gonna look completely different. And whenever we get you back on here, it's gonna be like, hey, y'all remember we talked to Lillie the first time?
Yes.
Look at her now. She got
200 employees.
200 employees. She got 50 attorneys working for her. Not no paralegals, just attorneys too.
Your lips to God's ears. Yeah, that's my goal. I'm aiming high, and if I fall a little short, at least I had the gall to do it. So I just want us to have this information. I just got to a point where I was just like, okay, you got a lot of knowledge. You're just gonna collect these paychecks, or you're gonna bring back the information. And I didn't want to do the form. I was like, girl, you better shut up and get these paychecks. But that little thing on your shoulder was like, I think there's more. I think there's more. I think there's more. And then I finally listened. So if you have a little voice on your shoulder and you're not ready to listen to it, that's okay. But eventually that voice will get louder and you will figure out your next right move. It may not look like anybody else's, but you'll figure out your next right move.
That's
Stay
powerful.
tapped in and listen to that calling. If that
Listen
little
to
voice
that
there for
calling.
long enough, I'm telling you.
Yeah,
Hell
man.
yeah.
I was telling her, shut up back there. Mind your business. These chicks is nice. But she was like, yeah, they're nice, but I think there's something more rewarding out there. Take a chance on yourself. Never have you taken a chance on yourself.
I got money on my mind. I'm just trying to get some dough. I ain't picking up my line unless it's money on the phone.